Welcome, everyone. My name is Emerson Sklar. I'm the Chief Evangelist of Amazon Alexa, and I'm joined here by Neil Letchford, the VP of Digital Engineering for Virgin Atlantic. Neil, thanks for coming.
Glad to be here.
So take us back to when Virgin Atlantic started experimenting with AI. What was like an early aha moment that you knew this would be something that would work for your business?
Sure. Yeah, I think early on we started experimenting with these models and how we might combine them with our own flight data and flight information.
Sure.
And combining the models with the flight data, we quickly realized there's something here where you could very quickly find flights and information using natural language and semantics that you couldn't do via a website. And we kind of opened our eyes to like new CX experiences we could build in the future. So that was the aha moment.
And you've done a lot of experimentation. You've actually productionized some things that we'll talk about here in a bit. But a lot of companies, I think, really struggle to know where to start. Either they try to start everywhere and struggle, or they get sort of paralysis that there's so many possibilities. How does Virgin Atlantic think about prioritizing where is most meaningful to invest initially or in the long term?
Yeah, I mean, look, Virgin Atlantic is a very innovative company anyway. That's kind of where we were born from. And we have a very product-driven mindset. So the way we start is we start small. So we take a small use case, a safe use case, and how can we build on top of that? And how can we build some value that would be of useful to a customer and test it? So when we looked at it, and we started with help information, help content is what we looked at as a first use case that was relatively safe to try with our customers to see how it worked.
And I like this notion of safety. You know, the airline industry is obviously a very heavily regulated industry. How do you balance the speed of innovation or the desire to innovate quickly, the possibilities for improving the customer experience with the privacy and security and like regulatory requirements that you face?
I mean, so a key part of when we first developed our AI capability was about observability and about understanding how the agent was performing with our data to ensure that we were safe and secure. So we started very much bottom up with that in mind, and observability and evaluation, safe data was key.
And that then kind of continues across all of the different initiatives that you have.
Right.
And let's see, last month you launched the AI Concierge, right? How's that been? How's the initial response been?
Yeah, it's been incredible. So we launched it to our customers just before Christmas, and it's been really interesting. So we're having massive usage with the concierge, but in different ways than we expected. We felt that most people would be using it for like day of travel, health, flight type information. But what we found is lots of customers, or the majority of people, are using it for trip planning. And not just, how do I get a flight somewhere, but actually ideation on, I'd like a sunny holiday with a beach, etc. And we weren't expecting that. So that's been a really interesting insight, and has now really got us thinking about what the roadmap looks like for the next year and how do we expand upon that. So yeah, it's opening up different insight and it's shaping how we think about the concierge.
Was that functionality that you'd planned and like built in initially, or is it sort of a latent capability that just happened to emerge?
So it's a effectively multi-agent framework we've built with a front of house concierge and then a number of agents in the background, if you like, that do the work. And we have 3 agents. So we have a help agent, a flight planning agent, and we have a holiday planning agent. So we spent a lot of time defining what those agents look like. We started with help because it seemed to be the most straightforward. And in our mind, we thought that's what people would want. Flight planning and holiday planning were sort of stretch goals, or we're doing deeper integration with data and information from our back-end systems. And although we felt that customers would have utility, we've never really signposted that capability. The main way to book a flight on Virgin Atlantic is through our website.
Sure, yeah.
And actually concierge isn't available on the booking part at the moment. It will be in the future. So what is happening is people are finding concierge in our help area and working with it to find out they can do flight planning. It's been a really interesting thing. It's really opened our eyes to what people want out of a concierge and the sorts of conversations they're going to have.
It sounds like you are really taking good advantage of the massive amount of data that you have. Like you have a ton of data about how customers like to travel, about where they like to travel, about activities or destinations that they might be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, Virgin Atlantic, sells flights and holidays. And actually, flight planning is quite transactional. Like I want to go somewhere, it's quite A to B when you think about it. holiday planning is a lot more complex. When you think about, there's a lot more stress about it, right? With your family, you need to make it a great holiday. And sometimes you can be overwhelmed with the choices and decisions when you're working through a website. Virgin Atlantic actually has retail stores in the UK where we sell holidays. And when we thought about building our holiday planning agent for Concierge, we worked very closely with the retail stores to understand how they operated on a day-to-day basis. And we brought that knowledge from our retail stores into our Concierge. So you get a very similar experience. It was very important to us that Concierge felt Virgin Atlantic.
I love that because that's like very important for Amazon and for Alexa as well. We want to make sure that we don't lose the soul or the essence of what made Alexa as we make this transition to generative AI.
Yeah, correct. So we've done a lot of work on tone of voice because what we know at Virgin Atlantic is it's our people are our secret sauce. And it's really how could we extend that at scale using the power of AI. And that's really what the Concierge has brought to the party there as well, because that's really interesting. So yeah, lots of time on tone of voice, how a Virgin Atlantic Concierge would operate, much in the same way you'd be doing with Alexa.
Yeah. Now you make it sound really easy. I can't imagine it was that easy though. I imagine there were some challenges. Like what did you guys face that perhaps you did not expect when you started this work?
The challenges are around not technical challenges. It's about evaluation and understanding how the agents are operating. That's the challenge. Having great observability is key because that gives you the security and the safety to know that they're operating, as you expect. That's the key. So we spent initially a lot of build time, but actually we learned that really more time on observability would be where I start. Really figuring out how are you going to evaluate these agents is super critical.
And I guess ensure that they continue to perform to that very high standard throughout their life cycle.
Yeah, I mean, the way we're starting to think about it is like, how would you evaluate an employee? You know, if you had an employee who was selling holidays, for example, how would you evaluate them? So we think about things like accuracy and precision and getting things and feedback loops and understanding how they perform. And these are metrics that are coming out of our system now, so we can feedback and improve the agent over time.
And it's obviously still early days with AI Concierge, but like how are you seeing that performance versus a trained member who might be in the retail store, for example?
At the moment, Concierge hands over back into our web journey to make bookings. Sure. But we are seeing people booking holidays via Concierge and flights, hundreds of flights. So we don't directly compare against humans at this point because, it's not appropriate, I guess, it'd be the right point. But no, we certainly see the performance is there. And actually, these are behaviors we weren't expecting. We were building it really to test and learn. And what we're learning is there is a demand and that people are using it. Super interesting, yeah.
It's amazing how customer behavior and customer sentiment towards this kind of technology has changed, even just over the last 6 months, let alone the last 2-3 years.
And what's interesting is, we also see when people first come to Concierge, they think it's an old style chatbot.
Sure.
Where our Concierge, you can use voice and you can use obviously text. And a lot of time people might come there and say, take me to human or take me to the contact center. And the Concierge will usually reply something cheeky to say, hey, why not give me a go first? That sort of thing. So, it's been fascinating. And we're really looking now to how we build on Concierge for the future. We're about to launch our new mobile app for Virgin Atlantic, and Concierge is a key part of that experience for Virgin Atlantic in the future.
Now, it's interesting that the consumer experience has changed and is continuing to evolve, but the back of house experience, the developer or designer or product manager experience, I imagine has changed as well. What was that kind of learning journey for your teammates like?
Yeah, so quite early on, we established an AI software engineering group. We kind of realized early on that we needed not just new types of skill sets, but people with the aptitude that wanted to get involved in this sort of thing. So quite early on in the process, we worked closely with OpenAI on Concierge, and we felt it was important that we had our own capability there as well. So we've established our own AI software engineering group. And off the back of that, we have been experimenting with the tools to help us develop Concierge. So that in itself has been fascinating as well. And the learnings from that have permeated across the other software engineering teams. They are a true AI first team, if you like. They're eating their own dog food as they do the development.
How do you see Virgin Atlantic's strategy continuing to evolve over the next 1 to 5 years?
The way we think about AI at the moment, this is obviously customer facing AI. The other aspect of that is what you spoke about earlier, which is, internal AI, if you like AI enablement within the function. As software engineers, we're kind of always moving forward with that. But actually, a big piece of work we're doing at Virgin Atlantic is how we might enable and make the other parts of the organization more effective and efficient as well. So one area we're looking at is our contact center and how we work with our contact center, but utilizing what we've built for Concierge to help power that. So, and that's where knowledge again becomes really important, because you need the knowledge to be grounded in both areas. So yeah, it's really about reusability of Concierge and what we've learned there and applying it to other use cases inside our enterprise.
It sounds like still taking some of the kind of software engineering or software development best practices of reducing rework, of like optimizing for that long-term vision and applying that across the entire business. Now, if you could go back, you've been doing this for a while, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice that you've learned now from maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or for anybody that's out there watching online that may not be as far along in this journey, if you could give one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I said it earlier, start with the evals. Start with how you're going to evaluate how your agent is operating and working. The technology has moved so fast, even from when we started developing the concierge, that you have to be prepared that things will change and move forward. So, architect flexibly, which we all should do anyway as good software engineers, but fundamentally it's that evaluation piece. A good example was when we first started working with concierge, we were using older models, right? Because that was what was available at the time, yeah? But when we launched it, we wanted to upgrade to the latest model. The only way we could do that was by having a really strong evaluation setup, so we could understand the impact of changing the underlying model. And that's been a massive enabler. So my advice to anyone, is start small, but get those evals set up and really understand what KPIs you want your agents driving.
When we launched Alexa back in February of last year now, we were using different models. Today we're using totally different models. We use dozens behind the scenes within Alexa, and they change so that we can provide the best experience to customers. And very much like Virgin Atlantic, we have this very robust evaluation framework to make sure that when a new model comes out, does it fit some of our use case? And can we rip and replace it to provide a better experience with no disruption to that customer?
Yeah. And it's funny how very changes in models and your systems prompt that are running your agents, you can have the same system prompt with a new model and you'll get a total different change. So yeah, it's critical. And actually, that prompt, I think people call it prompt engineering these days, but understanding how to prompt your agents, understanding how your agents effectively behave or how their personalities are is a real skill that is really difficult to pick up. And I don't think anyone's quite nailed what that role is or who owns that role at the moment. But that's been another fascinating area.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that we've spent a ton of time trying to figure out. It's like, how do we make sure that in our prompting or just in our general architecture that we distill the essence of what makes Alexa,
Yes.
And that we enforce that at every possible interaction so the customers can still have the trustworthy, friendly, factually accurate, helpful kind of experience that they had in the much more deterministic version of the original Alexa that we had. We're excited to have you here with us. What made you want to work with Amazon? What made Amazon an attractive potential partner for Virgin Atlantic?
I think the customer first principles that Amazon have are very, very close to how Virgin Atlantic feel about our customers. That customer obsession, that innovation.
My favorite leadership principle.
Yeah, I mean, but Virgin Atlantic is very similar. We're a premium airline, but we're an experience-based airline, and our customers mean everything to us. So that experience is key, and that's how Amazon feel as well. And although we're very different types of companies, our principles are actually very similar in how we view the world. And I think as two companies, it's a great relationship we have and how we work together. Yeah, it's very special. But the story I've got for you is the reason we met up is because a long time ago, back when I was a programmer, we used to pair program with a QA engineer and myself. Yeah. That QA engineer ended up working at Amazon in the Alexa team. And that's where we got the introduction. And that was like 30 years ago. It's just a small world. And then it's grown and grown and grown. But that's where it started.
Back in the stone ages of AI.
Well, it wasn't AI then. Yeah, it was like, can we build a website? Yeah.
That's easy. Yeah, small.
Yeah, but relationships matter, right? And keeping those relationships and keeping each other in the loop as to what happens, and great things can happen. So yeah, we love working with Amazon.
It's fantastic. Neil, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see what's coming out next with Virgin Atlantic, with the AI Concierge, and with Amazon as well.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.